You're listening to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. This is episode 34, and today's topic is extremism. Hey everyone, Adam Muselli here. Welcome to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. This podcast is released every Friday, and show notes are found at the website, themindtechinstitute.com. It's all one word. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All links are in the show notes and website. And now, let's get started. You might be thinking now, why this topic is important? Unless someone is writing some social or political science thesis. Well, the fact is, this topic is important to all of us because extremism is highly dangerous. And the most dangerous thing in this world, after stupidity, is a stupid person with power. Therefore, because extremism is highly dangerous, it often results in views that are detached from reality or that are destructive to the ideals of others. But how does this go about? And how can someone relatively normal end up becoming a fanatic with such questionable ideals? As we saw, in the last few years, that too many people from the West are going and joining some extreme and fanatic groups of people. And here in this episode, we will look into this idea further and from a scientific point of view. First, let's describe extremism. Extremism describes any kind of exaggerated view. And an obvious example of this could be political extremism, for example, wherein a person or a group of people hold highly extreme and black and white views regarding their political and often incorporates ideals and attitudes that the rest of us would find offensive and even impractical or just wrong. Other examples might be an extreme obsession with one idea, as well as a lifestyle, a hobby, religious fanaticism, or some kind of belief. You see, extremism isn't only exclusive to violence or war, but even very caring people can become extreme. They can become extreme with their care, and they start to become intolerable. For example, vegans, and I'm not saying all vegans, but vegans supposed to be all that caring about animals and all that, but yet they would harm humans to save animals. I mean, I'm pescatarian since the last 8 years now. And pescatarian means that I eat some seafood, but I don't eat any kind of meat, such as beef, chicken, pork, or any other meat products. So even then, with someone like me, to a vegan extremist, it's still not enough because I shouldn't eat eggs, for example. And of course, they can argue this case and get science involved as cherry-picking science just to prove their point. But the fact is, that is an extreme way of attacking someone or judging someone who doesn't agree, follow your footsteps, or conform with you. Once again, I'm not saying all vegans are like that. Of course not. But once you start thinking that you're better than anyone else, you'll automatically become judgmental to others. And that will lead to extremely force your views or shove down your beliefs into other people's throats. And equally, so could someone who takes their concern of environment too far, that they are willing to burn down factories. And I remember about 10 years ago, firefighters started cutting down some trees somewhere. And all hell went loose when some environmental activists found out. And they forced the firefighters to stop cutting the trees. And the result was the worst bushfire they had that summer. Due to the extreme heat, and the poor firefighters couldn't keep up, and many of them got injured. So they were cutting down some trees before summer starts to try to contain and control fires during the summer season, the heat season, because they knew there would be an extreme heat waves next summer. And of course, they couldn't cut down the trees because of some silly activists. They're trying to save some trees while putting a whole town at risk. That is when too much care becomes stupid and irresponsible. You see, I'm all for the environment, but taking it too far where you're putting everyone at risk is really stupidly irresponsible. Extremism can also be found in sport and supporting your favorite team. You see two sides at, let's say, a football stadium. And because of their extreme support to their team, they become fanatics and turn the whole stadium into ashes. And thousands get injured. And all that because of a ball. Supporting a team, and you know the names of each one of them. But they don't know yours. Or actually, they don't even know that you exist. It is quite sad. Also, extremism is the home base of politics and religion. In politics, right-wing, left-wing, liberal and conservatives, green, red, yellow, whatever, it's all just a facade. It's the same agenda wearing different masks to distract you. It's a new world order. I don't want to get into this now because it needs a whole different episode. The point is, all these parties lead their supporters to behave in a predicted way. Could be racism, could be discrimination against others, or whatever just to win the game. You see, real politics is no politics. Or a real politics is politics that get people together, to live equally together, safely, no wars, no racism, no greed. But where? In this world? In these days? I mean, just to be logical here, it's a bit far-fetched to achieve, but I still have hope. I have to. The same thing goes with religions. And I'll do a separate episode about religions, but religions are no different from the other parties. Wait, let me clarify something here. A religion itself doesn't support violence unless you start cherry-picking and taking things out of context. You will really end up with a disaster. I have studied the world major religions during my studies when I was doing social and behavioral science. And because I'm multilingual, that's when you speak more than few languages, it made it easier for me to understand the original texts of the world major religions, such as Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and other isms. And I hardly found the violence that has been carried by those who claim they are following those religions. Every religion has a stigma of some kind of violence, even the most peaceful ones such as Buddhism. And we all see what radical Islam has produced to us. And let's not forget the 300 Years Crusade and many others who claim to follow a certain religion, but once again, it's just a mask. You see, terrorism has no religion, but certainly has an agenda. And for the agenda to succeed, it must wear a mask, because the good people from any religion will certainly oppose it. Think of a disease or a virus. A disease or virus will first pretend to be a good cell in the body, for example. Until it gets stupid, the body will find out, and if you're lucky enough, your immune system will destroy it, or it will destroy you. So how does extremism start, or how is it formed? Extremism doesn't happen right away, just within a day or a night. But it's a gradual process, which is you might first start out fairly normal in your political or religious beliefs, but then fall prey to a number of psychological effects that can lead you to fall deeper down in the rabbit hole. The first is something called confirmation bias. This basically refers to our tendency to ignore information that contradicts our beliefs and to only take on board that information that confirms your beliefs and enforces it. Now, to stay moderate, you need to seek out the opposite view. But what many people will do instead is they read books and articles, they listen or watch only the programs that confirm their beliefs and only listen to the one side of the story. Of course, this will then more and more cause you to become increasingly certain of your beliefs, and potentially, ultimately, delusionally so. Also, it's important to note convergence and divergence. Convergence refers to an individual's tendency to become more similar to members of any group they are in. And this is something that is noted across the board. Even your language tends to become more similar. As such, if you identify strongly with a group such as a political party or a religious group, you will unconsciously become more like them. And this will cause you to become gradually more zealous. Divergence, meanwhile, is the tendency for any group to become less similar to other groups that they know of in order, presumably, to forge a clearer identity and to differentiate themselves. This means that a political party or a fan club or a religious group is likely to gradually become more and more diverse from others, and this will mean coming up with more and more out there concepts, which the whole group is likely to agree with due to the convergence principle. At the same time, this groundthink can also lead to dehumanizing aspects where members of opposing belief system starts to seem less like real and important people. We are able to emphasize more with people more like us. So, in turn, this can result in an us and them mentality that history has proven can lead to horrendous acts of violence and even genocide. As I mentioned before, such as the Crusades, the Conquistadors, the Holocaust, the recent genocide of Christians and the Yazidis in Iraq and Syria, the Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, the constant problems in Israel and Palestine, and by the way, even the Muslims are getting killed by the same extremists in Iraq and Syria. And that is the biggest proof that terrorism has no religion but an agenda. And it's always serving those who orchestrate all these world events. The next step in the process is called religious zeal. So now as you then begin to become somewhat fanatical about a subject, you can start to experience an extreme emotional response when you are preaching your cause or engaging your practice. This is often referred to a religious zeal. But people have been shown to have similar firing in the brain when watching a football matches or when singing a patriotic song. At the same time, the emotions then become a reinforcing factor. That means you start to associate your extreme view with powerful, positive emotions, meaning that you become almost addicted to your cause and get high from it. Now, here's a question. Can just anyone develop extremist views? Well, it's hard to say, though the power of social influence has been demonstrated in psychology many times. And of course, I'm referring to Zimbardo, Milgram, etc. However, it is certainly true that some people are more prone to extreme views than others. And of course, some people can develop them free of any environmental factors. Think of it this way. A psychopath, for instance, who lack any form of remorse or empathy might well develop extreme views to a lack of some of the guiding morality that acts on the rest of us. At the same time, extremism can be a result of various other psychological issues. And if you apply a psychodemic lens to the phenomena, then you could very well look at extreme views as coping strategy or an ego defense mechanism. For instance, one well-known defense mechanism proposed by Freud is that of reaction formation, which basically means that you become extremely opposed to an idea or aspect of yourself that you're not willing to accept. So, yes, homophobia, xenophobia, etc., or let's say homophobia, very often is the result of homoerotic feelings or thoughts. And someone who was to join a homophobic political party, for instance, then might well do so as a bid to try and prove to themselves that they are straight. So, extremism is a psychological phenomena, and it is important to understand this when dealing with it. Of course, in order to keep your own thoughts and feelings moderate and rational. So, in summary, having your own opinion and belief is great. Forming your own critical thinking is also great. But when we start forcing our ideas, our ideologies, our belief, our opinions on other people, and if they don't agree with us, we ridicule them or we punish them in any way, then this is a clear case of extremism. And the way I like to put it is when you get stupidity and ignorance and marry them together, the offspring would be extremism. So extremism is the offspring of stupidity and ignorance. And you notice all the extreme people, they lack knowledge and they lack intelligence. Therefore, they're always angry, they're always doing things which any society would not agree with. Even the holiest or even the best and the most peaceful movement, when it becomes extreme, it also ruined the whole image of the movement, of the belief, and the members. The same with a religion, the same thing with any movement, any belief system. Those extreme people, when they get to that level of extreme, they're not just ruining their image, but they're ruining all the other people's image, including the idea that this extremism is formed upon. And in most cases, not all of them, the belief system or the religion or the movement is free from any type of extremism. But that is the work of the members. I think we have reached our runtime now. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, as usual, you can email me. The email is on our website, themindtechinstitute.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube. The Dynamic Thinking Project podcast is released every Friday. Until next time, take care and enjoy your weekend. This is Adam Muselli, signing out.